Imagine spending $200 billion on a world-changing machine, and the moment you finish using it, you throw the blueprints into a furnace. It sounds like a lapse in logic, but it's a central part of the official 1969 Apollo narrative. NASA intentionally destroyed the technical specifications for the remarkably advanced hardware that supposedly put men on the moon on their first attempt. That decision sits alongside a second paradox. With 50 years of technological advancements, astronauts today still cannot safely cross the deadly Van Allen radiation belts that surround our planet. Welcome to the Bookish Breakdown. Today, we are conducting a deep dive into the provocative claims presented in Bart Sibrel's book, Moon Man. We are going to perform a categorical audit of the official Apollo story. By examining administrative missing data, the intense biological barriers, glaring mathematical impossibilities, and photographic anomalies, we will see how the narrative holds up against these specific discrepancies. Let's start with the missing data. Sibrel highlights that NASA destroyed all technical specifications and flight data for the Saturn V rocket. Usually, a one-of-a-kind engineering triumph is preserved as a permanent historical and scientific record. Sibrel argues this destruction was a calculated move to prevent a modern engineering analysis. If the data revealed the Saturn V was incapable of leaving low Earth orbit, let alone reaching the moon, burning the blueprints would be an effective way to hide the deception. The vanishing evidence extended to the video archives. The original, highest-quality slow-scan TV footage of the first steps on the moon disappeared after being sent to the Goddard Space Flight Center. Decades later, NASA stated the tapes were likely erased and recorded over. The absurdity of this loss became clear when Hollywood producers were making a highly funded IMAX documentary. They needed the original high-quality tapes to blow up for the massive screens. But because NASA didn't have them, the producers had to resort to renting VHS tapes of the moonwalk from Blockbuster Video. By removing the blueprints and erasing the original tapes, the ability for modern technology to verify the details of the most important achievement in history has been effectively eliminated. Even if the missing records were a clerical error, we still face a biological barrier. James Van Allen, the discoverer of the radioactive belts surrounding Earth, explicitly stated that the radiation levels were high enough that humans exposed for 2 days would only have an even chance of survival. This is why the International Space Station orbits merely 250 miles about the Earth, specifically to stay below this inner belt. Yet the 1969 mission reportedly flew through 39,000 miles of this radiation, protected only by paper-thin aluminum shielding. Modern missions highlight the ongoing difficulty. In 2014, NASA sent its unmanned Orion spacecraft directly into the Van Allen belts to test radiation levels for future human travel. During a press release for that mission, NASA engineer Kelly Smith stated that the belts are made of dangerous radiation and admitted, and I quote, "We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space." This creates a significant comparative paradox. If modern engineering hasn't yet solved the problem of safely shielding humans from this radiation, it challenges the logic that the Apollo astronauts survived it unharmed in 1969. The discrepancies continue in the foundational physics of the mission. Wernher von Braun, the lead architect of the Saturn V, initially calculated what it would mathematically take to fly a manned mission directly from Earth to the moon. His pre-Apollo conclusion was that a single rocket was an economic and scientific impossibility. He insisted you would need to build an Earth-orbiting space station first, just to ferry the fuel required for the journey. Von Braun stated the mission would require 3 separate rockets, each taller than the Empire State Building and weighing 10 times more than the Queen Mary ocean liner. But after President Kennedy made his boast to reach the moon by the end of the decade, von Braun recanted his math by 32,000%. He accepted a single, drastically smaller rocket that weighed just 2,500 tons, a fraction of what his own physics initially dictated. This suggests that the official Saturn V rocket used in 1969 directly contradicts the fundamental physics originally established by its own designer. We can also look at the visual anomalies through Sibrel's perspective as a filmmaker. He analyzed the famous Apollo lunar photographs by applying a simple rule of lighting. Sunlight creates parallel shadows. Because the sun is a massive light source so far away,
The rays that hit the moon are perfectly parallel, meaning shadows cast by objects will always run in the same direction. However, official NASA photographs, supposedly taken in sunlight, show shadows from nearby objects intersecting at sharp angles. Sibrel argues there is only one way to produce this. You must use a small, close-up electrical light source, like those found in a film studio. There is also the matter of the limited photographic coverage. Despite this being a historic milestone, there is not a single clear still photograph of Neil Armstrong's face on the lunar surface. NASA claims he shared the only camera mounted to his chest, which Sibrel considers an illogical approach for such a high-stakes mission. For Sibrel, these intersecting shadows represent a definitive anomaly. He points to this geometry as evidence that these photos were captured inside a photographic film studio lit with artificial lights, rather than on the sunlit moon. When the incinerated blueprints and erased tapes are combined with the biological barrier of radiation and the altered mathematics of the Saturn V, the cumulative evidence creates a significant friction with the official historical record. The culmination of these factors leads to Sibrel's ultimate conclusion in Moon Man, the assertion that no astronaut from any nation has ever successfully traveled beyond low Earth orbit. Investigating these discrepancies forces us to reconsider history and look more closely at what we have been conditioned to accept as absolute truth. If you enjoy exploring the hidden corners of history, please like this video and subscribe to the Bookish Breakdown for more deep dives. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.